You know, when you find a flash drive with a recording of your boyfriend making love to your neighbor right on the kitchen counter where you cooked breakfast together just that morning, time stands still. Not metaphorically, but literally. You just stand there with that damn flash drive in your hand, and the world around you seems to freeze, and there's only one thought in your head. This can't be true. But it is true. And it happened to me. My name is Liam, and 3 weeks ago, my life was divided into before and after. Before, when I accidentally found that recording. After, when I realized that for the last 6 months, I had been living in a beautiful, carefully constructed lie. John and I had been together for 4 years. 4 fucking years. We met at the gym. Cliché, yes, but it was love at first sight, if you believe in that. I believed it. He came over to help me with the barbell, smiled that signature smile of his that made my stomach flip, and I thought, this is it. This is the one. A month later, we were renting an apartment together, and a year later, we bought a house in the suburbs. It was small, 2 stories, with a tiny garden that I dreamed of planting with roses. John laughed at my plans for roses, but promised to help. He always promised to help. The house was our dream. I worked remotely as a graphic designer. John was an engineer at a large company, and we could finally afford something of our own. Not rented, not temporary. Ours. We discussed what color to paint the living room walls, argued about furniture, planned where to hang our vacation photos. It was our life, our future. Klaus showed up about a year ago. He moved into the house across the street, and John immediately offered to introduce himself and help him settle into the neighborhood. I thought it was nice of him at the time. Klaus was German, about 35 years old, working remotely as some kind of IT consultant. Tall, blonde, with that distinctive accent that many find sexy. To me, he was just a neighbor, a regular guy who sometimes came over for barbecues, borrowed tools, helped John with some manly stuff like fixing the fence or cleaning the gutters. I wasn't jealous. Not at all. It sounds ridiculous now, but back then I had no reason to be jealous. John never gave me any reason to doubt him. He was attentive, caring, asked me every evening how my day had gone, kissed me before bed, told me he loved me. We had sex regularly, we had plans together, we had mutual friends. I thought I knew him. I thought we were happy. 3 months ago, we started having problems with the kitchen sink. At first, it just drained slowly, then it got completely clogged. I suggested calling a plumber, but John said he could handle it himself, that it was no big deal, and why pay someone for something you can do yourself? He called Klaus to help. He apparently had some experience with plumbing. I was at a meeting with a client in the city at the time, came back late in the evening, the sink was fixed, John looked pleased with himself, said that everything went great. Klaus was a great guy, and now we had saved a lot of money. I thanked him, kissed him, and we went to bed. A normal day, nothing special. Then, 2 weeks ago, I was looking for an old flash drive with a photo archive for a client. I have about 10 of them lying around in my desk drawer, and I know that at least one of them must have the files I need. I went through them one by one, plugged them into my laptop, and looked at the contents. And I came across a flash drive that I didn't recognize. It was black, with no identifying marks, completely ordinary. I opened it. There was one folder. In the folder was a video file. The file name was Kitchen Cam OG 151423 MP4. We had security cameras in our house. John insisted on them when we first moved in, saying that even though the neighborhood was quiet, it was better to be safe than sorry. There was a camera in the hallway, a camera in the backyard, and a camera in the kitchen. All recordings were automatically saved to the cloud, but they could also be downloaded to local storage if necessary. I never did that. It was John's responsibility. August 15th, that was the day they repaired my sink. I remembered the date because I had an important meeting with a potential big client that day, and I was nervous the whole way there and back. I don't know what made me open that file. Curiosity? A premonition? Just a coincidence? Maybe somewhere deep down, I already sensed something but didn't want to admit it. I don't know, but I opened it. The first few minutes were nothing special. The kitchen was empty. Then John came into the frame, followed by Klaus. They were laughing and carrying some tools. John opened the cabinet under the sink and started fiddling with something. Klaus stood nearby and they talked, but there was no sound on the recording. The camera only recorded video. I watched them work, passing wrenches to each other, bending over, looking under the sink. A typical repair scene. 20 minutes passed. They seemed to be finished. John straightened up and wiped his hands on his jeans. Klaus patted him on the shoulder. They laughed again. And then Klaus leaned over and kissed John. Not in a friendly way. Not on the cheek, on the lips, long, passionately. And John didn't pull away. He kissed him back. I remember my hand freezing on the laptop trackpad. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. This was some kind of mistake. This wasn't my John. This wasn't our kitchen. This was some kind of glitch, a camera malfunction, editing, anything but reality. But it was reality. On the screen, John was kissing Klaus, and his hands were sliding under his neighbor's t-shirt, and they were pressing against each other the way John and I pressed against each other in our bedroom. The way only lovers press against each other. Klaus turned John around and pressed him against the kitchen counter. The same counter where I cut fruit for smoothies every morning, where we laid out groceries from the supermarket, where I kneaded pizza dough on Fridays because it was our tradition to make homemade pizza and watch a movie. They started undressing each other. Slowly, hastily, awkwardly, as happens when desire is stronger than caution. John's t-shirt was on the floor. Klaus's jeans were unbuttoned. Hands everywhere, mouths everywhere. I should have turned off the video, closed the laptop, thrown away the flash drive, pretended I hadn't seen anything. But I couldn't. I watched my life fall apart right there on the screen of a 14-inch laptop, and I couldn't look away. Klaus turned John's face toward the tabletop. I could see John's face in profile. His eyes closed, his mouth slightly open. The expression. God, that expression. I knew it. It was the same expression he had when we were good together. The expression I considered mine, belonging to our moments of intimacy. And now it belonged to Klaus. I couldn't watch anymore. I slammed the laptop shut so hard that something cracked inside. I didn't care. I sat in the silence of my office, staring at the wall, unable to breathe. My chest felt empty. Not painful. Just empty. As if someone had cut out everything that made me alive and left only a shell. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe an hour. Maybe 5 minutes. Time lost all meaning. At some point, I heard the front door open downstairs. John was back from work. "Hi, honey." His voice, so ordinary, so familiar, floated up the stairs. "How are you? I bought your favorite Chinese food for dinner." I didn't answer. I couldn't. He came upstairs and looked into the study. He was smiling. He was holding a bag of food. "Is everything okay?" he asked, and there was genuine concern in his voice. Genuine. How could he? How could he sound so sincere when 3 months ago you forgot what you were doing with our neighbor in our kitchen? I looked at him. Just looked. And something in my gaze made him wary. The smile slowly slipped from his face. "What's wrong?" He took a step into the room. "Liam, you're scaring me. You deleted the camera footage," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "On August 15th, you said it was a security system update." He froze. I saw something flash in his eyes. Understanding. Fear. Then he quickly pulled himself together and feigned confusion. "So what?" He shrugged, but the movement was too sharp, too exaggerated. "Software updates always delete local recordings, that's normal. Why are you asking?" "Because I found a flash drive, I took it out of my pocket and showed it to him. With a recording from the kitchen camera. From that very day. All the color drained from his face. The bag of food fell from his hands and hit the floor. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Liam, he began, his voice trembling. I can explain. Explain. I crossed my arms over my chest because if I didn't, they would shake, and I didn't want him to see me shaking. Explain to me why you slept with Klaus in our kitchen while I was at a meeting. Explain why you lied about the system update and deleted the records. Go ahead, I'm listening. He stood in front of me, and I could see his brain working quickly, trying to find a way out. An excuse. A lie. Anything. It was just once. He finally blurted out. I swear, it only happened then. We were drunk. It just happened. I didn't want to. You weren't drunk, I interrupted. I saw the recording. You were both sober, and it didn't just happen. You kissed him. You wanted it. He took a step toward me, reached out his hands, but I recoiled. I couldn't bear his touch. Even the thought of his touch. Liam, please. John's voice trembled, and tears welled up in his eyes. It didn't mean anything. You're everything to me. I love you. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I don't know what came over me. Forgive me. Please forgive me. Tears. He was crying. My John, who never cried, who was always so strong, so confident. And part of me, some idiotic, naive part, wanted to believe. Wanted to hug him, tell him that everything was okay, that we would get through this. Because 4 years couldn't be a lie. 4 years couldn't evaporate because of one mistake. But I saw his face on that recording. I saw how he looked at Klaus, and I knew it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Get out of my office, I said quietly. Liam, oh, get out. I didn't mean to yell, but the words came out anyway. Get out of here, now. He backed away, sobbing, and left. The door closed behind him, and I was alone. A heavy, oppressive silence fell. I looked at the flash drive in my hand. Such a small thing, so insignificant. And yet it destroyed everything. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. Every moment of the last few months, looking for signs I had missed, lies I hadn't noticed. And I found them. God, how many I found. Those evenings when John stayed late at work. Those days when he suggested I go to my parents for the weekend while he stayed home, citing projects. How often Klaus started showing up at our place. How they would exchange glances sometimes. How John would tense up when I walked into the room where they were talking. I was a blind idiot. All this time they were right under my nose and I didn't see anything. I didn't want to see. In the morning, I left the guest room and found John sleeping on the sofa in the living room. He never made it to our bed. There was a bottle of whiskey on the coffee table, almost empty. So he got drunk alone, trying to drown his conscience. Or his fear of losing me. Or both. I walked past him into the kitchen. Our kitchen. Where 3 months ago everything had fallen apart, and I didn't even know it. The countertop was clean and shiny. John must have scrubbed it especially thoroughly after that day, washing away the traces of sin. I couldn't stay in that house. I couldn't breathe that air. I packed a bag, wrote a short note, I need time to think, and left for my sister's place. She lived in another city, a couple of hours away. She didn't ask any questions when I showed up at her doorstep with red eyes and a bag. She just hugged me and said I could stay as long as I wanted. John called. He sent messages, dozens of messages, hundreds of words that were supposed to explain everything, fix everything. I swear, it was just this once. I don't know what came over me. You are the love of my life. I'm willing to do anything to regain your trust. We can go to a therapist. I'll cut off all contact with Klaus. Anything. Just don't leave me. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I forgave him? I couldn't. That we were done? I didn't know. A week passed, then 2. I worked from my sister's apartment, mechanically fulfilling orders, communicating with clients, pretending that everything was normal. But inside, I was empty, like a field scorched by fire. Nothing alive, only ashes and blackness. My sister didn't pry, but I could see the concern in her eyes. I could see that she wanted to ask what had happened, but was afraid. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. We were sitting on her balcony late at night drinking wine, and she just put her hand on mine. "Tell me," she said quietly. "What did he do?" "He cheated on me," I replied, and it was the first time I had said it out loud. "With our neighbor." I found the recording. She was silent, squeezing my hand. Then she asked, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to go back, forgive her, try to rebuild what we had. And another part wants to burn everything to the ground and go somewhere where no one knows me or this story. "You don't have to decide right now," my sister poured us more wine. "Give yourself time. Feel what you feel, and then decide." Time. Everyone talks about time as if it heals, but time just passes. The wounds remain, the scars remain. Trust, once broken, cannot be glued back together like a vase. The cracks remain. Forever. In the third week, I decided I needed to go back. Not to John, to myself. To pick up my things, sort out the house documents, decide what to do next. My sister offered to go with me, but I refused. It was my mess, my pain. I had to deal with it myself. I arrived in the afternoon when I knew John wouldn't be there. He was at work. I opened the door with my key. The house greeted me with silence and the smell of his cologne. Everything was in its place, clean and tidy, as if nothing had happened. I went up to the bedroom and started packing my clothes into a suitcase. I moved automatically, without thinking, just grabbing things and stuffing them in. At some point, I heard the door open downstairs. "Liam?" John's voice. He had come back early. Of course he had. He must have tracked my car through the app or just waited for me to show up. Footsteps on the stairs. He appeared in the bedroom doorway, out of breath, disheveled. He looked at me as if I were a mirage about to disappear. "You're back," he breathed. "To get my things," I replied without looking at him. I continued packing my suitcase. "Wait." He stepped closer. "Please wait. Talk to me, just once. I've been going crazy these past 3 weeks. You had 3 months to tell me the truth." I finally looked at him. "After that day in the kitchen, you could have confessed, asked for forgiveness, but you chose to lie, to hide, to pretend nothing had happened. I was afraid." He ran his hand over his face. "Afraid of losing you. I knew that if I told you, you would leave, and I couldn't bear that. So you decided it was better to continue lying?" I slammed the suitcase shut. "Better to sleep with me, kiss me, say you love me, knowing you were deceiving me? How could you even look me in the eye? Because I really love you." His voice broke into a shout. "I swear, Liam, what happened with Klaus was nothing. Physical attraction, a moment of weakness. But you're my life. I can't breathe without you." "A momentary weakness," I repeated slowly. "One that lasted long enough to get undressed, sleep together, and then carefully cover it up. A very momentary one." He was silent. What could he say? There were no words that could fix this. "Was it just once?" I asked, even though I was afraid of the answer. Was it really just once? Or was there more? I could see him struggling with himself, to lie or tell the truth. In the end, he lowered his head. "Twice," he whispered. "Twice. That day in the kitchen and again a week later, at his place. I told you I was going to a meeting with colleagues. Something inside me finally broke. Twice." He went back to him. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. It was a conscious choice. Twice. I walked up to him and hit him. Not hard, not with all my strength. I just needed some kind of physical action to express all the pain I was feeling inside. He didn't even try to dodge. He took the blow, swayed, and raised his hand to his cheek. "I deserved that," he said quietly. "I know I deserved it. You can hit me again. I don't mind, but I couldn't. One time was enough to feel not relief, but even greater emptiness. Violence does not heal betrayal. Nothing heals it." "I'm leaving," I said, picking up my suitcase. "My lawyer will contact yours about the division of property." "Lawyer?" He turned pale. "Liam, you can't. Are you trying to get a divorce?" "We're not married," I reminded him. "But the house, the bills, everything else, it all has to be divided. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Please." He grabbed my hand. "Don't do this. Give us a chance. One chance to make things right." I pulled my hand away. "You already had your chance," I said. "We had 4 years. You blew it." I went downstairs and left the house. He didn't follow me. I could only hear him crying behind me, loudly, genuinely, like a child. Part of me wanted to turn around, to comfort him, to say that everything would be okay. But nothing was okay, and nothing ever would be. I got in the car and started the engine. I looked in the rearview mirror. The house that had been our home was slowly receding, and I realized that this was the last time I would ever see him. As I was driving away from the street, I noticed Klaus. He was standing on his porch, smoking, looking in my direction. Our eyes met for a second. He didn't look away. He didn't look guilty. He just stared. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he was even proud of destroying someone's life. I stepped on the gas and drove away. The following weeks passed in a blur. Lawyers, documents, negotiations. John didn't resist. He agreed to everything. He kept the house, and I took my share in cash. We divided up the furniture, appliances, and all the other stuff we had accumulated over the years. We tore our life together into pieces like a child's mosaic. He tried to call a few more times. I didn't answer. What could we say to each other? Apologies don't change the past. Promises to change don't restore trust. 2 months after that day, I rented an apartment in the city. It was small, a one-room apartment on the 5th floor without an elevator. It was the complete opposite of our house with a garden and dreams of roses. But it was mine. Only mine. No memories, no ghosts of the past. The first night in the new apartment, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the bare mattress. The furniture was supposed to be delivered tomorrow, and thought about everything. About how we met. About the first kiss, the first time, the first "I love you." About how I was sure he was the one for me. That we would be together forever. Forever ended on the kitchen counter with a neighbor named Klaus. You know what the worst part is? Not the cheating itself. Not the sex. Not the betrayal as a fact. It's that I still love him. Despite everything, despite the pain, the lies, the 2 times that destroyed 4 years. I still love John. I still miss him when I wake up alone. I still catch myself dialing his number to tell him something funny or share some news. And then I remember that recording, his face. That look of pleasure that should have belonged only to us. And love mixes with hate so that I can't separate one from the other. The psychologist I started seeing said it was normal. That love doesn't just switch off at the snap of your fingers, that I need time to grieve the loss of the relationship. That it really is grief. As real as grief for a dead person. Because the John I loved is dead. He's gone. There is only a person who bears his face and voice, but inside, a stranger. I recently found out from mutual friends that John still lives in that house. Alone. Klaus moved out a month ago. Apparently, he decided that the neighborhood had become uncomfortable. John doesn't see anyone. He goes to work and back. He's become a recluse. Part of me feels satisfied by this. It means he's hurting. It means he realizes what he's lost. The other part, the part that still loves him, wants to call to make sure he's okay. that he's not doing anything stupid, but I don't call, because his pain is no longer my responsibility. He chose it himself when he decided that once with Klaus wasn't enough, that he needed a second time. Sometimes, at night, I fantasize. I imagine receiving a message from him. Not an apology, not a plea to come back. Just, I understand. You were right. I'm sorry it turned out this way. I wish you happiness. The right words. The ones that would allow me to close this chapter and move on. But he doesn't write them. Maybe he never will. Or maybe I'm not ready to receive them. Because if he writes them, it means he's let me go. And if he's let me go, it means it's really over. Final and irrevocable. And it turns out I'm still not ready for the final end. What an idiot I am. 3 days ago, something strange happened. I left the house to go for a run. I started running in the mornings because my psychologist said that physical activity helps with depression. And I saw John. He was standing across the street near a cafe. Just standing there, looking at the entrance to my house. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't trying to approach me. He was just watching. Our eyes met. He looked terrible. Thin, with dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, like a man who had stopped caring about himself. I should have turned around and walked away, or gone up to him and told him to stop stalking me. But I just stood there and stared back. I don't know how long we stood there. A minute? 5? Then he nodded, once, briefly, and walked away. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked away. That evening, I received a message from him. The first in several months. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted to see you. I won't do it again, I promise. That's it. Nothing else. No requests, no confessions. Just an apology and a promise. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete the message. You know, they say that time heals all wounds, that the pain goes away, the wounds heal, and life goes on. Maybe that's true. Maybe in a year, 2, 5, I'll wake up and realize that it doesn't hurt anymore, that I can remember John without that icy lump in my chest, that I've forgiven him. But right now, today, at this moment, it still hurts. Every day, every night. When I wake up and reach for the empty half of the bed. When I make dinner and automatically take out 2 plates instead of 1. When I hear a song that was ours and my heart squeezes so tight I can't breathe. I don't know if I've forgiven John. I honestly don't know. Do I understand why he did what he did? No. Do I excuse him? Never. But do I blame him? Not as much as I did in the early days. Because it's easy to blame. It's easy to hate. But living with the understanding that the person you loved most in the world was capable of causing you the most pain is difficult. It breaks something deep inside, something fundamental in your ability to trust people. I'm afraid I'll never be able to trust anyone completely again. That I'll always be looking for signs of lies, cheating, betrayal. That I'll turn into a paranoid person who checks their partner's phones and looks for hidden meanings in their every word. I don't want to be like that. But I don't know how to be different after all this. The psychologist says it's normal, that I'm going through stages of grief and it will take as long as it takes, that I shouldn't rush to forgive or forget, that the main thing is not to get stuck in anger and pain, not to let them determine the rest of my life. I'm trying. I'm really trying. I go to therapy, I work, I meet up with friends, I try to build a new life. Sometimes I even manage to forget for a few hours that my world has fallen apart. I laugh at a joke, I get excited about a project, I plan a trip, and then I remember, and everything comes back. Recently, my sister asked me if I would ever be able to fall in love again. I replied that I didn't know. I honestly don't know. The idea of letting someone into my life so closely, sharing everything with someone, trusting someone completely, it scares me to death. Because I've already done it once. And look how it ended. She said that not all men are like John, that there are good, honest, faithful people out there, that I deserve love and happiness. Maybe she's right. Maybe someday I'll meet someone who will prove that trust is possible, that love doesn't necessarily end in betrayal. But right now, it's hard to believe. I still have the flash drive. It's in my desk drawer, wrapped in a handkerchief. I can't bring myself to throw it away, even though I know I should. Maybe it's some kind of masochistic desire to keep the evidence. Or maybe I'm just afraid that without it, I'll start to doubt. Did it really happen? Maybe I made it up? Maybe I exaggerated? No, I didn't make it up. It happened. And I saw it. And it ruined everything. You know what I miss the most? Not sex, not dinners together or trips to the movies, just the simple moments. When we lay on the couch, our legs intertwined, watching some nonsense on TV. When I was working on the computer and John was sitting next to me reading a book, and we didn't need words. Just each other's presence was enough. When he made breakfast on the weekends, humming some tune, and I went down to the kitchen, sleepy and content, knowing that pancakes and coffee were waiting for me. These little things, they made up our life. Not grand gestures, not expensive gifts, just the daily closeness of two people who chose to be together. And he chose to destroy it. For what? For 2 hours of dubious pleasure with a neighbor? Was it worth it? I want to believe that it wasn't. That he regrets it every day, every minute. That he understands what he has lost. Because if he doesn't understand, if for him it was just an unpleasant incident that ended with the loss of an inconvenient partner, then everything I believed about us was a lie from the very beginning. And I'm not ready to believe that. Not yet. Maybe it's a weakness. Maybe I should have just cut him out of my life like a failed experiment and moved on. But 4 years is not an experiment. It's a piece of my life, a piece of me. And cutting it out means leaving a hole that I'm afraid will never be completely filled. Yesterday, I found a photo in an old jacket. John and I, on vacation in Iceland 2 years ago. We're standing by some waterfall, hugging, smiling at the camera. Happy, in love, confident that we have our whole lives ahead of us together. Naive fools. I looked at that photo for a long time. I tried to remember that day, those emotions. And you know what? I remember. I remember how good it was, how happy I was, how I believed I had found my soulmate, and it wasn't a lie. Back then, it was true. We really loved each other. Maybe he still loves me in his own way. Maybe I love him, no matter what. But love is not enough. I understand that for sure. You can love someone and still hurt them. You can love and betray. You can love and destroy. Love does not guarantee fidelity. It does not protect against lies. It does not make relationships indestructible. And that is probably the most bitter lesson of all. I didn't throw the photo away. I put it back in my jacket pocket. Maybe someday I'll be able to look at it without pain, just as a memory of a good period of my life that has ended. Without anger, without resentment. It's just over, and that's okay. But right now, it hurts. And I don't know when the pain will stop, or if it will ever stop. They say you never forget your first love. John wasn't my first love, but he was the love I believed in with all my heart, the one I bet on, the one I planned my future with. And now that future will never come. All that's left are fragments and memories, and a question that I'm afraid will haunt me for a long time. What did I do wrong? What was he missing with me? Why wasn't I good enough? The psychologist says it's not about me, that his betrayal is his choice, his shortcoming, his problem, that I'm not to blame for his decision to act this way. I understand this with my mind, but my heart still aches. Maybe if I had been more attentive, more attractive, more interesting, he wouldn't have gone to Klaus. Maybe I missed something, fell short somewhere, disappointed him in some way. I know these are destructive thoughts. I know I need to get rid of them, but they're sticky, like a spider's web, and the more you try to free yourself from them, the more entangled you become. I recently saw our kitchen in a dream. John and I were cooking together. He was cutting vegetables. I was stirring something on the stove. We were talking and laughing. Everything was as it used to be, as it should have been. And I was happy in my dream. Truly happy. And then I woke up, alone, in a strange apartment, in an empty bed. And I realized that happiness remained in the dream. In an unreal world where John didn't cheat, where Klaus doesn't exist, where we still have a future. In reality, all that remained was me, a flash drive with a damned recording, and the realization that there was no home to return to. People say, time heals everything. Maybe, we'll see. For now, I'm just trying to live one day at a time. Get up in the morning, make coffee, work, eat, go to bed. And try not to think about the fact that somewhere a few hours away lives a man who still has the face of my love, but inside has become a stranger. And I don't know what's scarier, that he destroyed our life, or that part of me still wants to forgive him.